13 by Femi. Femi's poem is based on personal experience. Growing up in Peckham, a diverse area in South London with a large Afro-Caribbean population, the young Femi was stopped by the police on suspicion of being a thief they were searching for. At that time, the police had the right to stop and search anyone they had suspicions about, irrespective of any evidence. This created a lot of resentment in the black community, who felt that they were being singled out by the police and discriminated against, especially if they were young, male and black. The poem is told in flashback, with the narrator, presumably the older Femi, speaking directly to his younger self, describing what happened. The opening stanza immediately sets the scene with the young boy being stopped and questioned by two police officers who are searching for a robber. They absurdly claim that the boy matches the description they have of the robber, despite the fact that they are looking for a man and the boy is just 13 years of age. The next stanza continues with the police searching him, whilst the boy remembers having seen one of the officers before, just a few years ago when he was at primary school. He recalls how this officer had praised the pupils as the biggest and brightest stars, supernovas. Frightened, the boy hopes in the third stanza that the officer will somehow remember too, but, of course, he doesn't, and the boy is rendered powerless and at the mercy of the officer's authority. Still fearful, the boy tries to jog the officer's memory, but without success. Then he remembers with irony that at the same primary school the teacher had told the pupils that supernovas are in fact dying stars on the verge of becoming black holes. To position his readers to take a more empathetic position, Femi uses the direct address of you so that we see things from his point of view. The boy is so near to the safety of home, but is cornered by the police, which implies a sense of threat. An officer is referred to as a Fed, which is an American term for the police, and which forges a disturbing link between the British police and the sometime brutality of the US police force when dealing with African American suspects. The bizarre reasoning for the officers stopping the boy prompts him to laugh and to repeat the obvious: he's only 13. The incongruous image of a boy being linked with a crime committed by a man is reinforced by the primary school memory, which would have likely been just 2 years ago. Note how the boy can still remember that it was on a Wednesday. The warm memory of the children being flattered as stars and the police officer's bright smile is another stark contrast with the present reality. The boy recognizes that he is powerless and at the mercy of the police officer. There is a sinister feel to the reference of the boy as being plump and having his organs being gambled over, since it suggests that the boy is reduced to a piece of meat to be sacrificed. Such vulnerability is underscored by his final plea and cold fear in the final stanza. At the very end, there is a moment of epiphany for the boy, as he remembers, perhaps with bitterness, if not irony, the reality of supernovas, that they are on the verge of death and destined to become voids. The poem, therefore, ends on a bleak and pessimistic note. As well as chronicling the injustice of being needlessly stopped and searched by the police, the events in the poem mark the end of the narrator's childhood innocence and the start of a growing social awareness. The contrast between the friendly officer who visited the narrator's primary school with the indifferent same officer who prompts fear and a sense of helplessness is clearly set out and adds an overtone of bitterness and disillusionment. This is a mood which is further heightened by the final image of dying stars collapsing into black holes, symbolizing the grim futures waiting for too many young people from an ethnic minority background due to prejudice and discrimination from those with power. The cold-heartedness of the police officers echoes the inhumanity of what man has made of man in Wordsworth's lines written early spring, whilst the sense of injustice in 13 can be linked to Shelley's England in 1819 and also a century later, which centres on the innocence of youngsters caught up in the adult world. Finally, the pot in Shamshad Khan's poem, in a way, is similar to the boy in 13 because they are both victims of unfair treatment and are not listened to.